Greetings and welcome, family, to another paragraph on the pages of time. We're honored to have the world famous acupuncturist, Qigong instructor, Dr. Love. Honored to have him. As we always do in the beginning, we're going to do our invocation and our commercials. So we will be back momentarily. But let us start with Brother Baraka up in Harlem. And here we go.
Putting out a call to the warrior in you, to the healer in you, the king, the queen, the magician, the lover in you. Every single day, we are called to walk in our purpose. Answer the call. Lay down your burden and anything that holds you back and take your rightful place. The battle is everywhere. It's right in your face. Let's go.
Health, love, wealth is your destiny.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, now we're going to do the commercials, starting with.
Family, I am here with a magical moment.
of young musicians. And this is Kim, Sister Kim, and she has a message about investing into the future musicians of our community. Sister Kim, tell us what you got here.
Hi, everyone. Kim, proud parent of children at the Big Apple Leadership Academy for the Arts. We teach HBCU high-stepping marching band to our kids from age 5 and up. It is a free after-school program, tuitionless, and it's open to all. Our kids are amazing. If you can, jump on our website. We're looking for support, donations. Our kids need new instruments so that they can high step on. Our website is www.balaa.org, BALAA.org. And I appreciate the time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And so, family, listen up close. We're talking about investing in the artists of tomorrow. By investing in them, if you have a little expendable change to invest in the youth, the genius, this is the opportunity. And in this description on this video will be the details of sending your donation to PayPal or Zelle or Cash App.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for your support. Our children are the future. Family, Lockfest, Saturday, September 9th, 2023. Sister, what do you have happening at the Lockfest? Tell us about it.
Hello, peace, love, and blessings, everyone. My name is Kim, and I am promoting Lockfest NYC 2023. This year, it will be at Restoration Plaza on Fulton Street. This is all about locks. It's about celebrating the beauty of dreadlocks, the culture, the history, sustainable, healthy living, peace, love, and vibes. Come on out, bring your family and friends. Tickets are available on our website, www.lockfestnyc.com, and Eventbrite. Peace, love, and blessings.
And then what's the hours?
The hours are noon to 8 p.m.
Okay, and is there a donation?
Donations are accepted upon entry, but tickets are available on the website and Eventbrite.
Excellent. Thank you. Be there.
Thank you.
Peace, family. I wanted to show you some of these great quality t-shirts that were designed by the brother Shaka. The I Am t-shirts. I am a generator, an operator, and a destroyer. Great quality t-shirts, 100% cotton. If you like one of these t-shirts, reach out to the brother Shaka at N as in Nancy, F as in Frank, N as in Nancy, Shaka at gmail.com. That's NFN Shaka at gmail.com. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
Okay, now we're going to get with the invocation to set the frequency to have this fantastic show. I want to thank all the Jedis who have been joining us on this platform throughout the week. It was a wave of fantastic shows to reach an eclipse of tonight. We got to have an awesome presentation by Dr. Love. But let's call on our Nuke Poo Nuke I Am Magnificence. I am in me. I am in co-host is Miss Bliss. I am in Dr. Love. I am within Baba Phil Valentine. I am within you, the listening audience, now and in the future. I am within Tasha. I am within Khadija. I have these beautiful goddesses holding Shakti space. Shakti sisters in my space place. I want to thank you for holding feminine allure in the pyramid chambers up on the hill of Brooklyn. And you, my brothers and sisters, you make the difference. So take hold of your crystals, take hold of your herbs, take hold of your heart, get hold of your cup of water, and let's have a frequency revolution. So thank you for being born to everyone listening. Thank you for being alive. May you, at the speed of love, remember your mission in this incarnation so that we may together in the spirit of Ubuntu successful rhythm manifest. And as we look upon our past to the countless wave incarnations of our previous experiences, we say together, yes, I am forgiving all wave soul incarnations, boundless as the sea we exist in. And I ask the waves of countless soul encounters, please forgive me. I was only in character with perhaps amnesia. And as we peel the heel of our awareness into the now and into the bow of the future, we say, yes, I am forgiving all kinesthetic, auditory, visual artists who may have been misplaying notes. And I ask that all musicians of wave incarnations forgive me. And as we call upon our ascended master ancestors, I personally invite, in the spirit of Ubuntu, gatekeeper of Northern California, entrance into the hollow earth, where the average lifespan is 1,500 years. Saint Germain, we actually be on the platform. Simeon Toko, the latest Christ born in the Congo, who invoked an army of bulletproof, muscle bound angels. We ask that you be upon this platform. The latest ascended master from Africa, who founded the city of Tuba, Sheikh Amadou Bamba, Sheikh Ibrahim, flying through the air, hungry lion proof, bulletproof, photographic proof, unless he allowed the photo to be taken. We ask that you be a part of this show. Thank you for your message of Kinkaliba, Kakaliba, also known as Sihar, Sheikh Amadou Bamba, Sheikh Ibrahim. Want to invite Imhotep, Yeshua, Black Madonna, Mother Mary, to be with us. Enoch the Ethiopian, who ascended into the heavens and became Metatron. Welcome to the platform. We thank you and acknowledge you and have space for you on this mothership of magnets, crystals, pyramids, and journey to bliss. We call on protection, Archangel Michael. Join us on this platform to protect all our family, friends, and loved ones throughout the world. And we ask our ascended master ancestors to do a consciousness coup upon the surface dwellers of this beautiful planet, this living planet we call Earth. We ask for a coup in the consciousness of the grassroots and the world leaders, known and unknown, seen and unseen. We ask Great Divine Director, Master Himalaya, Seraphis Bey, Kathumi, Buddha, Krishna, to do a consciousness coup upon the world leadership, human and non-human. We ask the ascended masters from the Syrian star system, Dogon star system, Palladian star system, Orion star system. We asking for galactic intervention upon the species that we call humanity to be DNA activated, upgraded, like the golden touch from the movie of Eddie Murphy protecting the young Buddha. May we all be consumed in the divine fire that we are gods, goddesses incarnated. We thank the forces of nature that live within us. Ilegba, Oshun, Yema Ya, Oya, Olokun, Shango, Ogun, Ochosi, Obatala. We thank those forces that we are, I am, in the spirit of Ubuntu. We thank White Buffalo Calf Woman, Quetzalcoatl, Tahuti, Rata, South African Zulu shaman Credo Mutwa, we thank Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Frederick Douglass, Mary McLeod Bethune, Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, John Brown. We thank Shroom Master Dr. Sabi, Shroom Master Kalindi Aye, and Dr. George Washington Carver. And we thank you, the shaman warriors who are rising like waves in the ocean of momentum of love supreme. We ask that you be guided day by day with the hands of our ancestors who can see the panoramic view of reality. We individually and collectively say, Aho, Ashe, Mahalo, Donada, Wado, Amen, Amen. And let us rock. So, Dr. Love, what you got going on besides dog barking?
Brother, it's the last 2 weeks have been so very amazing. I have been threatening to teach this Kemet 101 course for about 3 years.
Wow.
And then finally, a sister locked me down, put me in a room, and said, "You're not leaving this room until you lay out the course content. We're going to do it at my place. We're going to live stream it all over the world. But you are going to teach this Kemet 101 because you've been doing this 27 years. No. My son is 37. 37 years.
Wow.
I've been a student of Baba Heru. And I think I was in his first Kemet 101 class every Sunday for 6 months.
Wow.
And I went there to replace some Kemetic jewelry that had been stolen from me in a robbery.
Wow.
And he questioned me so deeply on why I wanted this particular Kemetic jewelry because I didn't understand the symbols. And he said, I'm not selling you anything unless you come every Sunday and you learn the meaning of all the symbols, and then I will sell you a ring.
Interesting.
A year later, he gave me a ring.
Wow.
And Baba Heru gave me the name Heru of the two eyes, the sun and the moon. So that was my Kemetic name. And then he introduced me to Dr. Wolde Kite, who then became my mentor.
Yeah.
And then 1994, Wolde ordained me as a priest of Imhotep.
Wow.
And then in 1999, Wolde made his transition. And I came back and I met with Baba Heru, and he said, I know you live in Florida, but you must teach the Kemetic ways in Florida. And I could not get any traction with the folks in Florida because they weren't studious. They were not serious about scholarship. They wanted to say that our ancestors built the pyramids, but they didn't want to really learn the true knowledge.
Wow.
So I just kept studying and kept studying and kept studying. And then finally, this sister grabbed me and she said, you're going to teach this Kemet 101 course. And now here we are, and I've got to teach it.
Awesome.
Now, the interesting thing about Kemet is they believed they would be reborn in the West.
Oh, I never heard that before.
You never heard that before. They always thought they were going to be reborn in the West. That was the basis of their religion. And we keep talking about were the ancient Egyptians white or black. That has nothing to do with anything because they didn't see color. So we can't use color as a measurement. What we have to use is culture. And it's the pre-dynastic culture of Ethiopia that became the basis of Kemet.
Wow. The pre-dynastic culture of Ethiopia
is the foundation. So when the Arabs moved in, this is what studying does. It teaches you that, yes, we built the pyramids, but that's not the important thing, okay? The important thing is, what can we learn from geography, biology, history, and psychology? And we got that from Sheikh Anta Diop, who was a linguist, and he proved that there were borrowed words in Kemetic language that came from Senegal, that came from Nigeria, that came from Sudan, that came from Chad, that came from the Congo River Basin. So there is no doubt in anyone's mind that the origin of ancient Kemet is Central Africa. There's no doubt. Now, the Assyrians move in, and then the Persians move in, and then the Greeks move in, and then the Romans move in, and then the Arabs move in, and then they want to like assume, because they control the territory, that they were the builders of that. And that's simply, clearly not the case. So ancestor worship is really where we are, because they believed in worshiping their ancestors. Now, interesting thing, my mother lived to be 100 years and 8 months. Think about that number, 108, 100 years, 8 months. That is a special number, and we should call Lloyd Strayhorn up and ask him about that. Now, the interesting thing is, everyone was sad and everyone was around my mother's bed. And then about 15 minutes before she died, everyone got really quiet and moved away. And I went and sat with my mother, and I held her hands, and I stroked her hair, and I massaged her jaws because she was having trouble breathing. So I put my hands on her neck. So I was massaging her neck, and I was getting her to look in my eyes, and I was breathing with my mother. I was breathing. And then she looked at me for an instant, and she went, and then she let go.
Wow.
And that's when I knew that she had passed. And I looked at the clock. It wasn't 11:11, it was 11:13.
Wow.
So again, I don't know the significance, but we can ask Lloyd Strayhorn.
Yeah.
So
I just want to acknowledge my sister Jerry. She did the same for my mom.
For your mom.
Yeah. She was like right there, said, Mom, you can let go, you can fly. And before I got word that my mom had made her ascension, and I like the fact that you used the word ascension, Dr. Jordan, because that's what we are acoustically family, striving and putting the word out. Is no transition, it's an ascension. And wherever you are, put us in the chat. Wherever you are listening from, let us know so that Dr. Love can hear how global the audience is. So please continue, Dr. Love.
So within 2 hours, they came and took my mother's body away. I was in shock that they came so fast. And then I decided to lay down in the bed that my mother had just left. And I put my head on her pillow and I wrapped up in her blankets. And my sister said, "What are you doing? Get out of the bed." And I said, "No, I want to absorb whatever energy my mother had, ectoplasm. I want to get that, because I have read that for about 8 hours after the spirit leaves the body, it still stays in the room before it dissipates." So the first thing that came to me, my mother said, death is not an ending, it's a beginning. And she said, I get to watch over you And I was like, what? And she said, yes, your father and I are here to look over you. So that threw me, because we don't really know what happens when you transition. We don't really know what happens when you ascend. You know, we read stories about people who died and then came back and they all had a story to tell. But this is direct knowledge. Direct knowledge. She said, I get to watch over you. And then she went on to further explain that in our lives, we have accomplishments, some more than others. But if you knew that at one point your death would be celebrated. So my mother looked me, I mean, obviously she's not there. She looks me in the eye and she said, honor thy mother and father. And the way you do this is to celebrate my death and not my birth.
Wow.
And I was like, celebrate your death? She said, yes. Death is a doorway to another life.
Wow.
So I'm here in the in-between world, not the afterworld, not the underworld, but the in-between world. So they could be sitting right next to you watching what you're reading, watching what you're eating. Now, if you celebrated the death of grandma and grandpa, and every year they had this celebration, and you got to hear the stories of all the wonderful things grandma and grandpa did. When you become an adult, then you realize I have a lot to live up to. To whom much is given, much is required. So therefore, I'm going to do my best to equal, if not better, grandma and grandpa. Now, think about all the relatives who are humming and bumming and not living a good life. But if they were brought up in a certain way, there's going to be a different outcome as an adult. So we can complain and we can blame and we can shoulda, woulda, coulda. But the thing is, if you are divine, you must claim your divinity every day. If your name is Venus Williams and you don't play tennis every day, you're going to get beat on the court.
You know,
if your name is if your name is Dr. J, and you don't play basketball every day, you're going to get beat in that weekend game at the court. You have to claim your divinity every day. You can't just say, "Well, I got that done." So we talk about the 42 negative confessions. Who made that translation? Who made that narrative? It is not a negative confession. What it is a declaration of innocence. And you do it every day. I will not kill. I will not steal. I will not raise my voice in anger. I will not upset little children. I will not gossip. I will not covet. I will not steal. So if every day you get up with the sunrise and you open your third eye by gazing at the sun, the first 15 minutes of sunrise, the sunlight goes through your two eyes to the back where the pineal is in the back. And you go, that light goes into your pineal, and it illuminates your entire being. Now, the symbol that you had at the beginning of your show is so profound because that explains everything that the Shrine of Psi is all about. It explains everything that Baba Heru taught me. You have two eyes with an Ankh in the middle. One eye is the eye of Ra, which sees out. The other eye is the eye of Heru, which sees in. So you have two eyes, an outer eye, and then you have an inner eye. Now, this third eye, the Ankh, is and there's twin snakes holding a little Ra at the top of the snake head. And those twin snakes with the Ra is the back of the eye. So the twin snakes are actually the male and female energy. They are the red crown of the south and the right crown of the north. Because the origin of Kemet was the yoking of the two lands. So we have up south, we have down north. So the energy and the wisdom comes down north. Now, at the bottom of the Nile Valley is farmland. The Greeks called it the Delta because it looked like the letter D. It's not the Delta, it's the 9 rivers. So the 9 rivers were the farmland. So the Assyrians come in and take over farms. And 20 years later, we push them out. 20 years later, they come back in and invade. And 20 years later, we push them out. This goes on for 1,000 years. The farmland being invaded. They were not about to go upriver. They were just wanted to control the 9 rivers where the farms were. Now, we've been led to believe that the Sahara Desert has been in existence for 25,000 years. Recently, the last 6 months, they now discover that the Sahara shrunk very, very slowly. And there were deep pockets. So we use the word oasis. Well, there were literally hundreds of oases in what we call the Sahara Desert that was actually Sahara saltwater lake. And so there was farms around each little lake bed. Now, as the water began to recede because of climate change, people migrated into the valley. They needed to go where the water is. So slowly, over a 2,000-year period, people are migrating, which are clearly African people. So the narrative is sub-Saharan Africa. That is a bogus terminology, and you should refute that every time you hear it. There's no such thing as sub-Saharan Africa. Africa is Africa. And up until 5,000 BC, which is 7,000 years ago, we were all over everywhere, and little pockets of people migrating from the Sahara Lakes region into the Nile Valley region. And people, being people, you have your friends and your family, and that becomes your little group, and you develop your own little culture. So, and again, this is all new. In the last 2 or 3 years, researchers are saying there were African cultures coexisting with Asian cultures in the Nile Valley. Coexisting. And the Narmer comes along and yokes the two lands into one. So the origin of dynastic Kemet is a miscegenation. It's a mixture, sort of like Puerto Rico is a mix. There was no pure anything, but the knowledge base, the culture from which it was formed, is clearly Congo River, Lake Tanganyika, and the Ugandan River that some people call Lake Victoria. So it is clear the White Nile from Uganda comes here, the Blue Nile from Ethiopia comes here, and they meet in Khartoum, which is dead center of Sudan. Now, why did they believe they would be reborn in the West? How did they know they were from the East? This is the interesting thing. Now, we know that we live in the West, and we know that they believe they would be reincarnated in us. Now, gotta know geography. Slavery in the Caribbean ended in 1834 because of the British. The British legally, formally ended slave trade and slavery, 1834. So what happens next? Well, you know, greedy people, they want to pull people as indentured servants from India. So for the next 65 years, 1834 to 1899, they're importing Hindus into the Caribbean as indentured servants, which we all know is glorified slavery. Then the Hindus wake up and they're like, we're not doing this for you anymore. And they bug out. So then what do? Oh, let's get those Chinese fellows. And then they start bringing Chinese people into the Caribbean. So now you have a mix of freed Africans, Hindus, and Chinese. And now you have the same mix that we had at the beginning of dynastic Kemet. Now, the word Kemet, Kem means black. When you put a T on the end of something, it feminizes it. So Kemt, like George and Georgette, or Juan and Juanette, John and Johnette, it feminizes it. So Kemt is the black earth. The earth is female. The sun is male. So the narrative that we believe that we were educated, we all know that it's colonial mentality. However, there was also something called Hellenization, which is the Greek mentality. So the Greeks, when they invaded Kemet in 330 BC, and the Ptolemies, and they stole that name, the Ptolemies were a Greek family of Macedonians, and it might interest you to go Google some pictures of Macedonia 2,000 years ago. These Greeks did not understand Kemet religion, philosophy, culture. They didn't understand it. So what they did is they mishmashed what they didn't understand with their personal philosophy and claimed that it was Kemetic. They took the worship of the Apis bull and the worship of Osiris and mishmashed it into something called Serapis. And they convinced the world that they had the lock on Egyptian religion. And they made these little Serapis dolls And they convinced the world, we'll do a blessing for you if you give us 500 dinars, and we'll protect your ship so it doesn't get sunk and you lose your goods. And they built this city called Alexandria, and you could not trade anywhere in Kemet unless you went through the port of Alexandria. And of course, the Greek Navy patrolled the coastline so nobody could land a ship. You had to be redirected through Alexandria. So everything that we read about ancient Kemet comes from the Hellenization, their opinion about what they saw. And then here comes Napoleon, and Napoleon then Frenchifies the Hellenization. So he puts his, not he per se, but the 600 scientists that he brought with him, they put their spin on what they saw of ancient Kemet. And they said, oh, this means that, and this means this. And they didn't know this, and they couldn't have known that. And then we grow up reading their assessment, their 17th century assessment of something that's already 8,000 years old.
That's amazing, Doc. Keep going, brother. Keep going.
So that's why I do the scholarship. We have to dig deeper than what the popular writings are. Okay? So there's something called medical papyrus. And so as a priest of Imhotep, I have to find the original source. I have to read the translation in German, and then the German translated into English. I have to read the original in French and then have the translation into English. So there is a museum in Brooklyn, and the only way you can get into the upper floors of this museum is if you have credentials. So I went to City College. I called the museum on the phone. I told them I was sending my graduate student there, and would they be courteous enough to let him use their library? And they said, of course. And of course, I'm the graduate student that shows up and gets into the library. You can't borrow anything. We didn't have cell phones, but there was a way to photocopy, and that's what I did. I photocopied the originals, took them out, went to Germans, went to French, and had it retranslated into English. So I know stuff that's not in books. And this is where scholarship comes in, because we're not well read. We have to take their word for everything, because their word is just an opinion based upon their limited thinking. So the pharaohs, and that is even a wrong word, Pra means the White House. Who lives in the White House? Oh, the king lives in the White House. But we're going to change the name from king to Pharaoh. The Greeks made the name Pharaoh. They never called themselves pharaohs. They were kings who lived in the Pra, the White House. Wow. And
damn! Break it down. Break it up.
So everything we know comes from Wallace Budge. And although 50% of what he said was true, the other 50% was a guess and just happened to be wrong.
Rolling dice to get paid.
So we have to go back and redo everything. Now, Ivan van Sertima wrote a book called Kemet, Egypt Revisited in 1996. Now, here's where it gets deeper and deeper. They built the Aswan Dam. There were 20 archaeological digs going on in the valley of Nubia, northern Sudan, southern border of Egypt. And when they built this dam, they flooded the Nubian plain. So these 20 archaeological digs had to hurry up, scurry, throw everything in boxes, and send it back to the various museums. So Ivan van Sertima goes to as many of these museums that would allow him, because he had his credentials as a PhD historian, and noticed that the burials from 500 years pre-dynasty were identical to the burials 1,500 years into the dynasties. Same headdress, same clothing, same ostrich feathers, same canopic jars. Wait a second. So 1996 is when we begin to understand that the origin of Kemet is definitely Ethiopian without question. Now, who's paying for the archaeological dig? Universities and museums. They don't care about white or black. They just want to be the first to grab the information so they could get tourist business. The Egyptians, the Arab Egyptians, they don't care about white or black. They only want to get tourist business. So if you go to Kemet today, outside of the tourist path, you will see pyramids that were half built. You will see pyramids that were actually destroyed. You will see pyramids that had crumbled. They only want you to look at what they want you to see, so you will pay for that. But if you want to understand how the pyramids were built, you have to go look at the ones that crumbled, the ones that they didn't finish. Okay? So I know a lot about pyramid building, and I'm going to just tell you one very simple thing. They've got these 80-foot long stones that weigh 2,000 kilos, 4,000 kilos.
Yeah, I see that. That's amazing.
So here's how they did that. They took a little tool and they made a groove with this tool. Then they poured oil in the groove and they set the oil on fire. And then with a hammer and chisel, tap, 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 the stone starts to split. And then eventually, 80 feet long, the stone splits. That's how they did it. Number two, the Nile was right there at the base of the pyramids. The Nile wasn't a mile and a half away. It was right there. So they used bladders, animal skin bladders, to make balloons. And when the Nile flooded, they lifted the stone and they positioned it where they wanted it. And then they popped the balloon and the thing settles right where they wanted it. That's how they got the stones so close together. They know this. But they don't want the public to know it, because when people, oh, that's how they did it. Oh, never mind. I don't need to go see it now. They want that tourist money, so they want to keep the mystery alive. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you is they were paid. They found the pay stubs. They found the pay records. So there was no slaves building pyramids. Point number one. Point number two, there was no Jews in Egypt. None. Point number three is the pyramids were built during the flood season, which somehow that escapes everybody. And the last thing is that the casing, the outer stones, were made out of cement. They took shells and crushed them up and put them in molds and then polished it. And so the outer casing of the pyramids was made by cement, their own version of cement. And the secret ingredient was some mineral compound which hardened. So it took the sand and the seashells that they crushed up, and then they poured this mixing into it that hardened it, and that's how they could make the facing. So everything that we're shown on television, all these documentaries, all these YouTubes are flat out lies. And that's what I'm going to show you in Kemet 101. It's going to start in September. It's going to be live streaming. I do have the link to register for the class. I just don't have it this second, but I will post it as soon as the show is over.
No worries, brother. No worries. You can always pass it on. And that's an excellent presentation, Doc. Excellent, excellent. Family, show your appreciation with your likes. Dr. Love, can you share with us some insights on Dr. Imhotep? Who is Imhotep? Can you touch on that, please?
I'm so glad you asked me that. Okay. So Imhotep was the advisor to the first king of the third dynasty. So he was a polymath or a multi-genius. I don't know where they get these words from. Polymath is the new word for multi-genius. And he came up with an idea of creating a mastaba. So it's a flat plane, and then putting another one on top of that, and then another one on top of that, and another one on top of that, and another one. And that is what we call the step pyramid. Now, it gets deeper because people assume that the mastaba, the flat thing, was a burial mound. And there are, in fact, burial mounds all over the world. But they assumed that first one is a burial mound. And so since it looked like a burial mound, the Europeans came up like, oh, that must be a burial mound. They must have buried their kings and queens inside of this structure. Now, I'm sorry, would you bury your mother or father inside of a stone thing?
Heck no.
Probably not. You'd want to put them in a tomb, like in a cave, where you could go visit and have the death date party. If you put them under this step thing, how are you going to go visit them? So the grave site of Imhotep is underneath that pyramid. Imhotep was a commoner. He was not royalty. He just was a really smart guy who found himself in a particular position and then used that and his natural creativity to build these pyramids. He built 5 pyramids, 3 generations of the same family. He lived to be 125 years old. He outlived all of the kings that he worked for. He outlived them. He wrote books of philosophy. He wrote books of poetry. He sang songs. He compiled all the documents of how injuries were treated in building the pyramids. If somebody got their thumb busted or a rock fell on them, he also compiled war injuries. So an axe hit somebody in the skull, how to actually repair the skull. If somebody gets stabbed in the chest and they don't die right away. He wrote description of how to repair stab wounds in the chest. If somebody got run over by a horse, he had a description of how to treat somebody who was stepped on by a horse. Do you know how complicated that is? So as the Europeans are opening the grave sites and they see these rolled up scrolls, which they called the Book of the Dead, the Book of the Dead. They're scrolls that are used in the afterlife to help them, because they knew that if they lived a good life, an exemplary life, that they would be reborn in the West. So they had all their cool toys. Did you know that cots, like folding cots, like camping, they had those. Folding chairs, they had those. Footstools, they had those. Camp stoves, they had those. All the stuff, cool stuff we used to go camping, they had that in 4000 BC. Now, the second cool thing about Imhotep is he took tent building. So I want you to think about this. You have a tent. How do you build a tent? The first guy, he's got to have some type of pattern. And he's got to have some kind of measurement to build a tent, because the wind and the sand will harm you. So how do you protect yourself from your environment? You've got to build a tent. So they had been building tents for at least 2,000 years, at the very least. So he took the mathematics and the geometry of tent building and decided to build stone pyramids. Now, here's something else you don't know about pyramids. The pyramids were not flat. They were indented. So just think, it came down and it went up. So it wasn't 4 sides of a pyramid, it was 8 sides. And they weren't pointed out, they were pointed in. You never read that, you never see any pictures of that. And yet, that's exactly how he designed the pyramids. So Imhotep, architect, he figured out a shorthand of keeping track of all the materials used in building the pyramids. He figured out an accounting system. You got to pay for this. Everything has a value. He figured out payroll records for the people who built the pyramids. Yes, he is first multi-genius and compiled all these medical records. Now, there are some people who believe that the Ankh is a uterus and that the crossbar is something, and then the upstanding is the penis. So the penis into the uterus. Well, I read the women's medical papyrus. It was translated into German, and then I read the English translation of the German. They knew the term uterus, but they did not know what a living uterus looked like. They talked about diseases of the uterus, but they never showed a picture of a uterus. And now I want you to Google what a uterus looks like. A uterus looks this way. It's not this way. The way we think a uterus is, no, the uterus is this way. And when you get pregnant, then it changes shape. Only when you're pregnant. Before you get pregnant, your uterus is this way. And then when you get pregnant, it elongates to what we think a uterus
So
looks like.
that means that this cartouche or chenu could be representative of the uterus that I have this frame in right now.
Show me.
You're in it.
Oh, yes. That could be very well what a uterus looks like.
Yo, that's radical, bro. Because yeah, man, that's radical, bro. That's radical. Because I got I have a Ankh. That's a long haul from what you just said. Look, fam.
Yes.
That versus this.
Right. Now
That's
go back
deep.
to the picture of the Ankh.
Okay, hold on. 1 second. Going back to the Ankh.
That loop is the halo around your head. The crossbar is your shoulders. And the other part is the upright from your chest to your base of your spine.
Oh, torso. Like your torso.
Exactly.
Wow.
Now, if you have these gods and goddesses carrying ankhs with their finger, would you let somebody walk around your finger in your uterus?
Ooh.
No, absolutely not. So whoever perpetrated that thing, whack-a-doodle. Second thing, upon Judgment Day, the person who died, this is called the opening of the mouth ceremony. You have to kiss the Ankh. The Ankh is the representation of your life force. And that opens the mouth and revivifies, born again, the deceased person. Now, we talk about Judgment Day, but do we really understand what is Judgment Day? Now, we say your heart is weighed on a scale against the weight of a feather. Your heart must be light as a feather as you proclaim or declare your innocence. I did not steal. I did not kill. I did not raise my voice. I did not incite terror. I did not make little children cry. Okay? This is some deep stuff. So you declare your innocence, and then and only then are you allowed the process of reincarnation.
Man,
Now,
that's deep, Doc.
another little known fact is Judgment Day was 70 days after death. Why 70 days? Because it took that long to preserve the body. The body must be preserved. That's a 70-day process. And then you go in to judgment. And if you are found wanting or deficient, then your body is immediately torn to shreds, so you cannot reincarnate. So incarnation requires leading the pure life. The criminals, the thieves, the murderers, the rapists, the pedophiles, they don't get to reincarnate. So we really need to rethink what we think we know. So I've got the correct information to clarify and connect all the dots. Because like I said, Wallace Fudge was 50% right, but he was also 50% wrong.
Now, you know, you're making me think about all the psychedelics I've done, Doc. I tell you, family, ayahuasca, shrooms, bufo, changa, they seem like Judgment Day, Doc. It seemed like It shows you your garbage, like almost like a rehearsal for Judgment Day.
What's the last book of the Bible called?
Revelations.
Revelations. So when you do ayahuasca or mushrooms, what gets revealed?
Revelations. And you know what? And the irony is we have some staunch people in the conscious community that is dreadfully fearful of psychedelics when ancient Kemet was like embraced in entheogens. That it's amazing. It's amazing. The dichotomy.
So, I just did a ceremony with what's the bark of the tree that acacia wood.
Yo,
I did
that's amazing.
Acacia.
Yeah.
Now, I gotta tell you, there was about 15 people. This woman, I don't know where she got the acacia from, but the amount that we drank was less than 2 ounces.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No,
it was a tiny little bit of, and it was not bitter to me. It was not bitter at all. So we had to drink this other thing first. Remember, you gave me 2 things when you came in my house?
The Mayo inhibitor, Syrian rue.
Right.
Tastes like
it was Syrian rue. So the first thing we did was Syrian rue. And then about 20 minutes later, we took the acacia wood.
Oh, it was on and popping, brother.
So I'm sitting there for an hour. I'm feeling nothing for an hour. And everybody else is there going through their stuff. And the woman facilitating as she's going from person to person, and she's breathing with them and she's singing to them, and she completely ignored me. So then after about 2 hours, she comes to me and she said, "Would you like some more?" I said, "Yes." So she did everybody else first and me last. And you know why she did me last? Because I was the only one of us in the room. And then she said, "Oh, there's only a little bit left. Do you want the whole thing?" I'm like, so I took a double portion at the end. 30 minutes later, everybody else was up and walking around and talking. And I'm like,
wow.
I was so flying. And so at the end, everybody's wrapping up to go. And they're like, "Are you okay? Nobody's moving. You're not moving." I'm like, I'm still high off this acacia. And I need to talk with you about this. It was the most amazing experience.
It's beautiful,
because it was all internal. Yes, there was some mild hallucination when I looked at the grass. The grass was moving kind of funny ways, and insects were stopping to look at me. So typically insects just go zzz, they fly around. But I noticed that the insects would stop and they look at me and they're like, "Yeah, he's on it.
Yeah, he's high." Wow.
So I meant to call you right after that and say, we got to start doing acacia.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite formulas. I'll even share with you how to prepare it. It's not hard to prepare.
Okay. Well, then we're going to start doing it.
And Doc, I'll share it with you right here. Sheikh Amadou Bamba. Let me show his picture because I got to give his credit's due. Sheikh Amadou Bamba taught that the mystical name for acacia is Jalaban.
Jalaban?
Jalaban. Jalaban. That's the mystical name for acacia. And so you can, when you do ceremony, if you ask Sheikh Amadou Bamba and Sheikh Ibrahim to guide the ceremony, and call on Jalaban, the spirit of Jalaban, which is the acacia, to navigate. You're going to have an amazing one because this is Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. I think, and I'm just saying, I think Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba may have been a Tsar in another time.
Well, according to legend, all of us are Osiris and Horus. And all sisters are Isis and Het-Heru. So how you live your life, you call that ancestor in to guide you, because Osiris was killed by his brother. Who of us have not been attacked professionally? Professional jealousy, haters, backbiters, people who spread rumors about us.
Yeah.
So all of us have been subjected.
Acoustical assassins from broken hearts and wounded souls, sliding on chicken grease.
Tell them again. Sliding on chicken grease.
Yeah. you know, Dr. Sabi called it mucus, but we know that's some chicken grease. Because, you know, my family, when I was growing up, they used to save the chicken grease to fry the eggs in and the bacon. And then the bacon grease would go inside the glass jar. You know what I'm talking about.
I know.
And then when it cool off, it'll be damn near soap.
Yep. You could make soap from bacon grease.
Yeah. And you wonder why your pressure's high.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. Fascinating.
So if we can use acacia wood to see into the future and the past simultaneously, we can use the acacia wood to see future and past simultaneously.
Yo, that's radical, Doc.
Oh.
That's radical. Now you sound like Back to the Future, and you look like Doc Part 2. And I'm riding shotgun.
Future.
I'm riding shotgun. Because we got to find out who messed with the timeline, because we're supposed to be on levitation vehicles instead of rubber wheels. Somebody messed with the timeline. Somebody messed with the timeline. Tesla would have had us on, just like they show you in the movie Star Wars, levitation vehicles, teleportation. Some gangster, nefarious life form, whether human or non-human, mess with the timeline, and we got this chicken farm, prison planet Earth, still on rubber wheels. Someone messed with the timeline.
So the relevance of Kemet is so important, and I'm going to tell you why. Spiritually, your parents, your grandparents, and your great-grandparents is your spirit line. So that's 14 channels that you can tune into for guidance. But what if your parents were incarcerated, or just not good people, or died early? So who do we go to for spiritual guidance? We have to go all the way back to the beginning. And that's why Kemet is important. Okay? Now, think about this. You have a woman whose husband is killed. She's got a friend. They resurrect the body. Without a penis, the Holy Spirit goes in. Then the sister says, I want some of that Holy Spirit too. So then Osiris goes to Nephthys and impregnates his other sister. She gives birth to Anubis. And of course, Isis gives birth to Horus. Horus and Anubis are brothers. Same father, different mothers. So think about in the Black community, how many women are single moms raising sons with an evil uncle trying to take their livelihood away and damage their children. Set could not have children. He was impotent. He bore no children. And yet, he was quick to do wrong things with men and women. We'll save that for another discussion. But the point of the matter is, if we look at the story, we can look in the community today and see the exact same thing happening. And that's a short story that I wrote up that I'm happy to share. I'll probably make a little video out of it, but then some people want the actual words. So that's why Kemet is relevant today.
Even in the chat, people, we could feel somebody had been messing with the timelines. From comic books to movies, we know somebody hijacked the timeline. We're supposed to be flying high on almost magic carpets like they did at one time. I mean, they had the Brahmanas in ancient India, and here we are earthbound with still on internal combustion engines. When Tesla made that car, the electric car, he pulled up the antenna and went from New York to California, only stopping to pee and drink water. The Tesla car today can't go past 100 miles. Really? Really? So yeah, somebody definitely messed with the timeline.
It's just like Westinghouse and Tesla.
Ooh, tell the folks what happened.
So Westinghouse was supposed to invest in Tesla's ideas. And when Westinghouse found out that Tesla was going to give free electricity to everyone, he came into the lab, padlocked it, and kicked Tesla out of his own lab. Said, no, you're not doing nothing free. I got to make money selling this electricity. So Tesla went into hiding and they tracked him down and they took all of his notes and he died alone. And they don't know whether he was murdered or whether he just died from exhaustion. No autopsy, no investigation, no foul play. He just died.
Oh, you know what? I got to share with you, Doc. I did ayahuasca. I don't remember if it was acacia. And I was asking Tesla, like, show me how to activate the Tesla bottles. And then he was standing in front of me. Because, you know, in ayahuasca, you have access to anybody. And I asked him, who are you really? And he unzipped the white uniform, and underneath was this bald-headed black man. And I said, who are you? Now, I'm on ayahuasca, family. He said, I am a Imhotep. And I thought about Octavio Butler. Remember how they could spirit jump in and out of bodies? Saint Germain uses skin suits. All these ascended masters use skin suits like we jump out of shirts. And then afterwards, it's like, well, now this whole racial thing is a scam. If you could jump from body to body. Remember that movie by Denzel Washington?
I remember that, yes.
And they played that song, Time is on my side.
Right. And the end of the movie corresponded to the beginning of the movie. Now, there was H.P. Lovecraft. During COVID, there was a series. And I wish I could remember the characters' names. But I'll have to get the references for you. But H.P. Lovecraft was a science fiction writer, and they took his work and they turned it into 1930s black-white drama where people could jump from one skin suit into another skin suit. And the good guy in the whole thing was hiding in plain sight the whole time. And at the very end, he unzipped his thing and he was this big-headed alien.
Wow. That reminds me of Men in Black. Yeah, Men in Black, where the roach, and he started stomping the water bugs. So nothing is as it seems, family. And Edgar Casey said the most revolutionary people, and he wasn't color specific, but the most radical people were in their previous incarnation, the overseer or the mean king or queen, but now they're on the opposite end of the incarnation spectrum. So I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know.
It's all fascinating. So I want to give you accolades for A, creating this platform, B, for being the godfather of Brooklyn on the spiritual side and bringing everybody together and training people, not just showing them once or twice, but actually training people. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for being in my inner circle.
Dr. Doc, you're my big brother, man. I remember when you and Phil was doing shows at Bell Manhattan Community College back in the day, man. I was just coming around. I had just come back from the Coast Guard in the 80s. And I was like, who's Dr. Love? Who's Phil Valentine? Who are these guys? And you guys were senior to me. So it's like, whoa. And whenever I would have you on the platform Blog Talk Radio, you would always like do Tai Chi in the conversation and throw me on the acoustical mat. And I was like, this brother ain't no joke. So I was always an honor to have you on the platform, man. You and Phil, because and family, tonight, this is the last show. Phil Valentine is resting. Him and his queen is resting tonight. So there's no show tonight at 9 p.m. Tonight is Dr. Love, period. And I just thought of the movie Dune for some reason, Doc. What was that movie? What's your take on that movie, Dune?
Dune. Oh man, that was a deep, deep, deep movie. First of all, you got to read the book. You can't judge the movie by the movie. You have to read the book first. And after you read the book, then the movie will start to make sense. So it's about the ability to sense what's going to happen before it happens, and to be able to feel the fear and do it anyway, knowing that you could die in the process, knowing that there could be total failure, but you're like, I'm committed, this is my destiny, I'm gonna do it anyway. That is the true message of Dune.
Wow. Yeah, because there was some kind of spice that makes you, yeah. Imagine if they had that out here. Whoa.
And if you watch the last Avatar movie, same thing. They got a spice that they get from these fish on this planet. And they harvest the fish to get this spice that makes you just like Dune.
I'm going to watch the movie. Just from what you said, because I was like, I don't feel like dealing with Avatar again. But now what you just said, I'm going to watch it. Thanks for that. Okay.
Yeah,
anything you want to wrap up? You want to drop anything else before we close?
I want everyone to honor their mother and their father.
Ashe, aho.
I want you to have a celebration on their death day. I want you to stop celebrating your birthday and start thinking about how I can accomplish things for my family and the greater community. What can I do to better everything? Okay, that is when you are walking with Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness pre-existed the historical Christ by 500 years. We've got writings talking about Christ consciousness before the historical Yeshua. So that's a concept that predates that. So we have to cultivate Christ consciousness within us. We are animal, we are human, and we are divine. Who's driving your bus? You see a pretty girl, you see a hunky guy, your ovaries, your testicles, and now you're like chasing like an animal. Humans are cooperatively creative. So humans come together to build bridges and build buildings. Animals don't build, except for maybe beavers, but animals don't build things. So humans are cooperatively creative. And when we are destructive, are we still human or are we dropping down in the animal? And the divine is the greatest good for the greatest number. So when you're operating from your divine mind, that's when you're helping the community. That's when you're honoring your own family. And how many of us disrespect our brothers and sisters? Our blood. How many of us disrespect grandpa and grandpa and auntie and uncle? So we need to start putting these structures in place where we actually honor father and mother. And we cultivate Christ consciousness within. So if you want Kemet 101, we'll post that later on. Thank you, Brother Hank.
Wait a second. Let me put that banner up. Classes. So I could make a banner for you. Classes in autumn.
It's going to start in September. I think it's September 8th or 9th.
Okay, and what's the contact number?
Area code 561 502
561. What's the rest of it?
502
502
6200.
6200. And these are called what's the name of the classes?
Kemet 101.
Okay,
it's 13 weeks.
Kemet 101.
Kemet 101, and it's 13 weeks long. They're going to be every other Sunday for 2 hours.
Okay. Kemet 101, 13 weeks long.
It's the second and fourth Sunday, starting in September.
Second and fourth Sunday. And I gotta say something about you, George. Dr. Love. Here, tell me if this is correct. Here, I'm showing it now.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Family, Dr. Love has always given me the vibe of like a Hawaiian, half a hippie, scientist, medicine man, healer, on the Hawaiian beaches under a full moon playing drums, and everybody of all different nationalities dancing under the stars. I really feel that you have an aloha spirit, George. I just want to acknowledge that, man, because I spent a lot of time in Hawaii, and you definitely have aloha spirit. So I think you Hawaiian at heart, my brother. Mahalo.
I do.
Mahalo.
Too.
Yeah,
My
mahalo.
son spent time in Hawaii, and he calls himself Kioki, which is Hawaiian for George.
Wow. Yeah.
So he identified with Hawaii without my input. It's just something he went into. So
Yeah.
I've been to Hawaii like half a dozen times already.
Yeah.
So
But you definitely have that Hawaiian aloha energy, bro. You know, having kava kava on the beach, you know, on the blanket and playing drums, you know? Yeah. So you'll get the time, Sherry. You're asking what time? Call George for more details. And Rachel Rose, she says he is all that and more. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah. So, you know, thank you for everyone who's listening now and those who's going to listen in the future. And you're also, Doc, you're welcome to come back anytime because I know you're in your lab and I can relate to that.
thank you, my brother.
All right,
I appreciate
family.
it.
We are out of here. Let's bring out with an elegant, eloquent wrap up. Night, night, y'all.
Say often, yes, I am. Supreme shield of protection surrounding me. Yes, I am. Yes, I am remembering all I was born to do. Yes, I am. Take hold of your crystal, which will magnify your I am affirmations at least 600%. If you don't have a pistol, you better have a crystal.